Justin Trudeau tramples all over the Charter of Rights and Freedoms with this new online hate bill, and penalties could result in fines as well as the possibility of life imprisonment. This is crazy. Let's get into it.
Oh, yeah!
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to The Fringe. We've talked a lot on this channel about Justin Trudeau's online hate bill. We've talked about how he aims to censor people once again, and of course, how this is part of the World Economic Forum's pitch that something big is going to happen online in 2024 and that it's going to work to their advantage. Now, of course, people like Pierre Poilievre have come out to say that they again will stand behind 100%, that none of Pierre's MPs, that nobody within his party is in contact or involved with the World Economic Forum. Now, again, I'm just quoting verbatim as for a press conference that was held over the weekend. But here we go as Justin Trudeau pushes and pushes now to silence Canadians. Now, freedom of speech is a part of our democratic rights. It is a part of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. We seen 2 years ago when Justin Trudeau threw Tamara Lich in jail for her right to protest. He trampled all over multiple people's rights in order to stand up for what they believe in simply because he did not agree with it. We've seen them invoke the Emergencies Act and freeze bank accounts of people that they didn't have the same opinion on a matter with. So Justin Trudeau isn't just trying to censor free speech. He's trying to just censor the things he doesn't like you saying, which is why he also has, I guess, dulled down the internet so that even when you're doing your basic news searches, you're not able to see independent media outlet posts like True North News, Western Standard, or Rebel News. Only Justin Trudeau's accredited prostitutes get top search results while other news is hidden. Well, now it's come out that Justin Trudeau's new hate bill could fine people up to $20,000 for hate speech or life in prison for hate crimes. Now, my question for this bill is what constitutes a hate crime in the Liberals' new bill? Because anytime they say these things, they're like, oh, we're doing it to protect children. You remember that? We're trying to protect kids. We're trying to protect kids from online hate. Again, as Pierre Poilievre said, these are wedge issues that Justin Trudeau pushes to simply distract you from why he is really putting these bills in place. It says here, I wonder if calling people intolerable, misogynistic, science-denying, space-wasting racists and then banning them from society would qualify as a hate crime. Of course not. The government is never held accountable for their crimes, which is interesting because, of course, it shows an article from True North that we're going to get into, but then it shows Justin Trudeau on one of his most infamous interviews.
Oui, on va s'en sortir de cette pandémie par la vaccination. Puis on en connaît tous des gens qui sont en train d'hésiter un petit peu. On va continuer d'essayer de les convaincre. Mais il y a aussi des gens qui sont farouchement opposés à la vaccination.
Qui sont extrémistes.
Qui croient pas dans la science, qui sont souvent misogynes, souvent racistes aussi. C'est un petit groupe, mais qui prend de la place. Et là, il faut faire un choix en tant que leader, en tant que pays. Est-ce qu'on tolère?
Tolerate these people. They just take up space. Do you guys remember that infamous interview? Well, True North has brought in what details they can. The Liberals' online hate bill contains $70,000 fines for speech and life imprisonment for hate crimes. $70,000 for essentially something that your God-given right is. Just because Justin Trudeau doesn't like it. In a move aimed at curbing the spread of terms of online hate, the Liberal government of Canada has revealed its plan, including hefty fines for online speech and stringent punishment, including up to life imprisonment for hate crimes. The centerpiece of its initiative is the proposed Online Harms Act, details of which were unveiled during a technical briefing released to many prostitutes and actual reporters on Monday. Among the categories of harmful content identified in the Act are materials that incite violent extremism or terrorism, that promote violence or foment hatred. Now, when you look at Justin Trudeau, again, using his wedge issues, when we look at things like Danielle Smith's new policies on underage children under the age of 17 being able to take puberty blockers. He calls this hate against the transgender community. He calls this hate speech. So does that mean Danielle Smith would face life imprisonment for simply running her province within her jurisdictional bounds? The bill will include amendments to the criminal code aimed at addressing hate crimes more effectively. The Online Harms Act, also known as Bill C-63, was tabled by Liberal Minister and Justice, Arif Virani in the House of Commons on the same day. These amendments include the introduction of a standalone hate crime offense applicable across all criminal offenses, with penalties extending up to life imprisonment. Maximum punishments for existing hate propaganda offenses are also set to be increased substantially. New standalone hate crimes offense would apply to every offense in the criminal code and in any other act of parliament, allowing penalties up to life imprisonment to denounce and deter this hateful conduct as a crime in itself, the technical briefing explained. The bill would also raise the maximum punishment for the 4 hate propaganda offenses from 5 years to life imprisonment, for advocating genocide, and for 2 to 5 years for others when persecuted by way of indictment. Now, we've seen over the weekend when this Online Bills Act was being talked about, we looked at Twitter had a tweet out from the Ferryman's Toll, one of the Diagolon group guys, that, of course, they caught a news briefing where one of these gentlemen who sat down with Thomas Mulcair said that the world would rather listen to 3 dorks broadcasting misinformation out of their basements. Now, I broadcast out of my basement. Does that mean I'm a dork that people would possibly rather listen to hate speech and misinformation from? I prefer to call this a basement, but a little joke there. But in all fairness, these are people who can't stand the fact that other people have the right to free speech. Other people have the rights to their opinions. This is a clear trampling of people's rights to have an opinion. We're not talking about racial hate crimes. We're not talking about radicalism. We're talking about the government simply not liking what you say. If it hurts their feelings, if it hurts their ability to push bills that trample over remaining rights that you might have, this is where they can basically classify anything at this point as hate speech if it goes against their ridiculous rhetoric. I could be fined for hate speech or life in prison simply by making this video, and that is where I think this country is in big trouble moving forward. If these are the kind of things that are going to be moved, it's reminiscent of a dictatorship. And a lot of people say we're in a banana republic. We are in a dictatorship. Justin Trudeau behaves, acts, and lives his life like a dictator. Well, this is where we're headed, ladies and gentlemen. The bill would add definition of hatred based on past decision of the Supreme Court of Canada to the criminal code. It says here that the text of the bill defines content that foments hatred as any content or content that expresses detestation or vilification of an individual or group of individuals on the basis of a prohibited ground of discrimination within the meaning of the Canadian Human Rights Act, and that, given the context in which it is communicated, is likely foment detestation, or vilification of an individual group or individuals on the basis of such prohibited grounds. When you look at my past writing works of how the Prime Minister stole freedom, I guess technically I'd have to pull that as soon as this bill goes through, because Justin Trudeau could say that's hate speech. For greater certainty and for the purposes of the definition, content that foments hatred, content does not express detestation or vilification solely because it expresses disdain or dislike, or it discredits, humiliates, hurts, or offends at the government. Additionally, private messaging and communications like WhatsApp and other platforms are excluded from the scope of this legislation. Anybody will also be able to file complaints against others for posting hate speech online. So there's the big problem there. When you look at the Me Too movement, when you look at, now I'm not saying that there's illegitimate claims, but how many times, ladies and gentlemen, have you seen or heard of a girl or man who goes out on a date, who they blow them off, they ghost them, they say it's not going to work out, they split up, and somebody freaks out and says, "Oh, I'm just going to call the cops and say that they raped me. I'm going to say that they sexually assaulted me and that they pushed me into making decisions that I didn't want to make just to get back at them because they don't treat me like that. They don't behave like this. This is where we run into a very slippery slope. Anybody will be able to file complaints against others for posting hate speech online. So again, if I were to say lefties are losing their minds over something that happened in the news, well, that's hate speech. Somebody could report me to the police. It's discriminating against projected categories such as gender, race, disability, and others. Again, referring back to Danielle Smith and her legislation. What does that mean for proposed legislation? This is going to tie up the Supreme Court's, much like Stephen Guilbeault's straw or one single-use plastics bill, much like the use of the Emergencies Act. There will be a ton of provincial jurisdictions filing against the federal government for this bill, which in turn wastes millions, if not billions, of tax dollars in court costs. It says here that amendments to the Canadian Human Rights Act will let anybody file complaints against persons posting so-called hate speech with the Canadian Human Rights Commission. If found guilty, the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal can order those found to violate the government's definition of hatred with fines of up to $70,000 and takedown orders for content. According to the text of the bill, the tribunal has the power to order payments of up to $20,000 for victims of so-called online hate, as well as an order to pay the government $50,000 if the member of the panel considers it appropriate. So the government's got to get their cut. In 2014, a similar provision under the Act dealing with the online hate messages were repealed by former Prime Minister Stephen Harper after it was found to have violated the freedom of expression of rights of Canadians. So again, this is where the Supreme Court would be tied up introducing this bill. The Liberals have pledged to reintroduce Section 13, which deals with communication of hate speech over the internet. It's a discriminatory practice to communicate or cause to be communicated hate speech by means of the internet or any other means of telecommunication in a context in which the hate speech is likely to foment detestation, vilification of an individual group of individuals based on a prohibited ground of discrimination, the text reads. The tribunal will also have powers to hide the identity of those who bring complaints against anybody whom they deem to have posted online hate speech. So, again, random people can just run around saying, hey, this person did that. They can take a screenshot and say, look what this person did. This is a huge Pandora's box that's being opened for litigation. This will destroy people's credibility, people's livelihoods, people's lives over falsely generated screen grabs, over false claims of mistreatment. How many people do you think will abuse the fact that they can just randomly run around and report people they don't even know, people that didn't even affect them? This is scary. The Commission may deal with a complaint in relation to a discriminatory practice described in Section 13 without disclosing to the person whom the complaint was filed with any other person the identity of the alleged victim or the individual or group of individuals that has filed the complaint or any individual who has given evidence or assisted the Commission in any way in dealing with the complaint. So it's completely anonymous. To enforce rules surrounding harmful online content, including materials that sexually victimize children and deep fakes, the government plans to establish a new organization. This body comprising the Digital Safety Commission, the Digital Safety Ombudsperson, and Digital Safety Office will work to ensure compliance with regulations that protect users from online harm. Meanwhile, the role of the Digital Safety Ombudsperson will extend to the advocating for users' rights and interests of the digital realm, serving as a watchdog for online safety issues. So again, we're giving power to people that don't necessarily need it. Prior to the bill's unveiling, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre said he would oppose the law, which is, I guess, a silver lining, accusing the government of using the issue to legislate censorship and infringe Canadians' hate speech. We will oppose Justin Trudeau's latest attack on freedom of expression. Poilievre responded to a question from True North's Andrew Lawton last week. What does Justin Trudeau mean when he says the worst hate speech? He means speech that he hates. And again, that retails back to what I was saying at the beginning of this video about Justin Trudeau deeming what exactly qualifies as hate speech. I am all for the protection of children. I'm all for protecting our kids from seeing things online. But I think at the end of the day, folks, that protection falls on behest of the parents. The parents need to ensure that passwords are in effect, that monitoring is being done, that their children are openly discussing what they're seeing online and sharing their browsing history. It works in our home. You just have to be vigilant with your kids. The government, again, overreaching and thinking that they have a right to not only tell you what you can put in your body, but how you're going to live your life at home, what you're going to see, what you're going to take in terms of news, what you're going to believe, and now what you're allowed to say. While you can still speak freedom of speech, let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. If this is just going to cost us billions in court costs, if this is eventually going to go through, if you think, or if it is going to be turned down by Pierre Poilievre, let me know your comments down below, ladies and gentlemen. If it's your first time here, I hope this video's earned your subscription. Make sure while you're here, you click on your bell for notifications and double check you're still subscribed, as YouTube has a hassling policy of unsubscribing people and turning off their notifications. To ensure that you see all of our content, make sure those are clicked on, and join us every Friday night here on the channel at 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central for Friday Night Fringe, where we go over everything that happened during the week, everything coming up in the week ahead, and a little bit of back and forth with my community and Q&A. I look forward to seeing each and every one of you there, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll catch you on the next one.